Welcome back, fellow explorers and history enthusiasts. Today we delve into the mysterious origins of a phenomenon that has haunted mailboxes and inboxes for generations: the chain letter. But beware, as we uncover its beginnings, you may rethink hitting that forward button for a seemingly innocuous piece of paper or digital message, even as it bears a potent promise or an ominous warning, compelling us to pass it on. Chain letters, in their various forms, have been a part of our lives, often shrouded in an aura of mystique and superstition. They've been known to promise great fortune or happiness to those who continue the chain, while threatening misfortune or even doom to those who dare to break it. This peculiar element of human communication, born out of curiosity, fear, faith, or simply the thrill of participation, has been a source of fascination and apprehension. As we peel back the layers of time, we find that chain letters have a rich and surprising history. Our story begins not in the era of emails and text messages, but in the ancient world where the concept of chain letters first took root. Let's rewind to the time of ancient Egypt, where the first known examples of chain letters were found. These were not your typical forward this or face bad luck messages, but rather intricate hieroglyphs inscribed on papyrus, carrying messages that were meant to be passed along. Often these letters contained stories or instructions that were of religious or spiritual significance. The belief was that by passing the letter to another person, the original sender could gain favor from the gods or even ward off evil spirits. Each recipient would add their name to the letter before passing it on, creating a long chain of participants in this ancient ritual. From Egypt, the concept spread to the Roman Empire, where it took a slightly different form. Here, chain letters were often used as a means of communication, especially among the military. A general might send a letter to his officers, who would then make copies and send them to their subordinates, creating a chain of command that was both efficient and reliable. Yet the Romans also had their superstitions. Some chain letters were used as a form of curse, with the recipient being threatened with misfortune if they failed to pass the letter on. This was a far cry from our modern chain letters, but the core concept, the idea of a message that must be passed along, remained the same. But it wasn't all doom and gloom. Some Roman chain letters were used to share news, stories, and even jokes. They were a way of connecting people, bridging distances, and creating a sense of community, much like the chain letters of today. From these early beginnings, the chain letter evolved, adapting to the changing times and mediums of communication. Fast forward to the 19th century, the chain letter found a new home in the rapidly expanding postal network. With the rise of literacy rates and the affordable postal services, the chain letter phenomenon started to weave its way into the fabric of society. Picture yourself in the 1800s receiving a letter with a plea to copy and forward it to others. It was a novel experience, a curious blend of excitement, intrigue, and perhaps a dash of fear. As the 19th century turned into the 20th, the chain letter's popularity didn't wane. It continued, finding new ways to entice, enchant, and ensnare its modern recipients. The chain letter phenomenon wasn't confined to one corner of the world. Oh no, it spread across continents, just like the explorers of old, crossing oceans and mountains, reaching out to people in the farthest corners of the world. Now, let's take a moment to acknowledge one of the famous chain letters that have marked our history. One that stands out is the "Send a Dime" letter that made its rounds during the Great Depression. These letters typically began with a heartfelt plea for financial assistance and promised significant returns to those who participated. Recipients were instructed to send a dime to the person at the top of the list, then add their own name and address to the bottom of the list before forwarding the letter to others. Thousands of people, desperate in an era of economic despair, sent their dimes hoping for a miracle. However, the Send a Dime scheme was ultimately unsustainable. While some participants may have received small returns initially, the vast majority inevitably lost their dime without ever seeing any substantial gains. As with many chain letters, the success of the scheme relied on constantly recruiting new participants, leading to saturation and collapse as the number of potential contributors dwindled. The send-a dime chain letter is as a reminder of how people sought creative yet ultimately ineffective means to alleviate their financial struggles during one of the most challenging periods in American history. The chain letter, over the centuries, became more than just a piece of paper passed along. In the age of the internet, chain letters transformed into chain emails and social media threads. With the dawn of this digital era, chain letters morphed, adapting to the new mediums of communication. They took on new forms, new disguises, but their core remained the same. They continued to appeal to our curiosity, our superstitions, and our desire to be part of something larger than ourselves. Suddenly, chain letters were not just found in the mailbox, but in our email inboxes, our social media feeds, even in our text messages. They became more than just handwritten notes or typewritten pages. They were now digital messages, embellished with colorful images, emoticons, and fancy fonts. Some were harmless fun, promising good luck or a surprise if forwarded. Others, however, were not so innocent. The digital age also saw the rise of chain letter scams and hoaxes. Messages promising vast fortunes or warning of non-existent viruses became all too common. These modern chain letters preyed on our fears and our hopes, exploiting our trust in the familiar faces that appeared to be the senders. Despite the evolution, one element remained constant: the warning against breaking the chain. Even in the digital age, the fear of breaking the chain haunted many of us. But what happens when someone finally breaks the chain? The consequences may not be what you expect. Overall, the expectations associated with breaking a chain letter vary, depending on the specific content and tone of the message, but they generally prey on people's fears, superstitions, and desire to avoid negative outcomes. Despite lacking any real basis in logic or evidence, these fears can be powerful motivators, leading many individuals to perpetuate the chain by forwarding it to others. Some common expectations are bad luck or misfortune, missed opportunities, guilt or shame, and social ostracism. However, these fears, my friends, are nothing more than a cunning manipulation tactic wielded by the originators of chain letters. Ingeniously, they tapped into the human psyche, exploiting our inherent fear of bad luck to ensure their messages spread far and wide. In the end, breaking a chain letter is not a harbinger of doom, but a break from an ancient manipulation and the appeal of a good story. That's all for now. Until next time, remember to question the stories that bind us, for the truth may be more mysterious than we imagine. Please remember to like and subscribe if you find these videos informative. I will see you in a future video.